My name is Julia Hayes. I'm 28. At 7:47 p.m. on our first wedding anniversary, I was standing in our living room holding a champagne glass of sparkling cider, 3 months pregnant, when a man I'd never seen before walked through our front door and said loud enough for all 32 guests to hear, "Julia, we need to talk about our baby." The room went silent, not the polite kind of quiet when someone makes a toast, the suffocating kind. The kind where you can hear ice cubes settling in glasses and someone's phone buzzing in a purse. My husband Daniel was mid-sentence in his speech about our future together. His mother, Catherine, was sitting in the wing-back chair by the fireplace, her emerald necklace catching the light. His father, Robert, stood near the bay window with his bourbon. Daniel's Aunt Margaret, Uncle Thomas, and 6 cousins I'd met exactly 4 times were scattered around the room we'd spent all week decorating with white roses and gold ribbons. The stranger was maybe 40, wearing a gray suit that looked expensive. He had a folder under his arm, his eyes locked on mine with this rehearsed sympathy that made my stomach turn. "I'm sorry to do this here," he said, walking toward me, "but you've been ignoring my calls for weeks." I felt Daniel's hand on my shoulder. "Who are you?" The man extended his hand. Daniel didn't take it. "Marcus Webb. Julie and I were involved last summer. June through August." My face went hot. "I have never seen you before in my life." Catherine stood up. Her voice was ice. "Explain yourself. Now." Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. Marcus opened the folder. "I have medical documentation here proving I'm the biological father of Julia's child. Paternity test results, hospital records showing we were both treated at the same clinic in July, and..." He pulled out photographs, glossy, professional quality, photos of us together. He spread them on the coffee table. I stepped closer, my hands shaking. The woman in those photos had my face, my hair, my exact height and build. She was laughing with this man at a restaurant, holding his hand on a beach, kissing him outside what looked like a hotel. "That's not me," I whispered. Daniel picked up one photo. His jaw tightened. "Julia, that is not me!" My voice cracked. "I don't know how he did this, but those are fake." Catherine moved to the table. She examined each photo with the careful attention of someone who'd spent 40 years managing a commercial real estate empire. "The resemblance is remarkable." "Because they're manipulated," I turned to Daniel. "I was with you last summer. Every single day. You know that." Robert spoke for the first time. "Were you, though?" Daniel traveled for work in July, 2 weeks in Singapore. "I was home taking care of the house. Your house. The one you insisted we live in until we found our own place." Marcus pulled out more papers. "These are phone records showing 247 text messages between Julia's number and mine between June 15th and August 30th, and credit card statements showing charges at hotels where we stayed together." I grabbed my phone. "My number is..." I stopped. The number on his documents was 1 digit different from mine, close enough that someone glancing wouldn't notice. "This is fraud," Daniel said. His voice was steady, but I could feel him trembling beside me. "You're scamming us." Catherine's expression shifted, not to sympathy, to something colder. "Or perhaps Julia has been scamming us. This baby, how convenient that it secured her position in this family, in our wealth." The words hit like a slap. "I didn't get pregnant on purpose. We wanted this baby." "Did we?" Catherine's voice rose. "Or did you want our money? You came from nothing, Julia. Your parents worked themselves into early graves just to keep a roof over your head. You never went to college, no career, no prospects. Then suddenly you're married to my son, living in our home, pregnant with what you claim is our grandchild." "Mother." Daniel's voice was sharp. She ignored him. "I never believed you loved him. I told Robert from the beginning, this girl is after our fortune, the properties, the businesses, the inheritance Daniel was supposed to pass to his children. Real Hayes children." I am carrying a real Hayes child. Tears burned my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. Not in front of her. Marcus stepped closer. Julia, I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to be involved in my child's life. I have rights. You have nothing because that baby isn't yours. Robert set his bourbon down with a deliberate clink. There's a simple solution. DNA test. We do it now before this child is born. Amniocentesis. If Daniel is the father, we apologize to everyone and move forward. If he's not, Catherine finished the sentence. Then Julia leaves this house tonight. Divorce papers filed by Monday. No settlement, no alimony, nothing. The room was spinning. Margaret whispered something to Thomas. Daniel's cousin Sarah was recording on her phone. I could see it in her hand, barely hidden. Daniel. I turned to him. His face was pale. Say something. He looked at the photos again, at the medical documents, at Marcus Webb's confident, sympathetic expression. You what? My voice broke. You believe him? I don't know what to believe right now. He ran a hand through his hair. These photos, the records, the timing. The timing when you were in Singapore and I was here alone? When your mother had me reorganizing her storage unit and cataloging her antique collection? When I sent you photos every single day of what I was doing? Catherine laughed. It was sharp and cruel. Photos you could have taken any time and sent later. Really, Julia, you're not as clever as you think. Something hardened in my chest, a kind of clarity I'd never felt before. I looked around the room. 32 people. Daniel's entire family and our supposed friends. Not one person was looking at me with anything except suspicion or disgust. I set down my glass. I want a lawyer. Guilty people want lawyers, Robert said. Smart people want lawyers. I met his eyes. I'm not signing anything. I'm not taking any tests that could harm my baby based on accusations from a stranger with fake documents. And I'm certainly not leaving my own home. Your home! Catherine's voice was venomous. This is Hayes property, owned by the Hayes Family Trust. You're a guest here. A guest who's overstayed her welcome. Daniel finally found his voice. That's enough, Mother. Is it? Look at these documents, Daniel. Look at these photographs. This man has evidence, real tangible proof. What does she have? Denials? Emotion? The same manipulation she's used since the day she trapped you. I didn't trap anyone. You got pregnant 3 months into marriage. 3 months. After telling Daniel you weren't ready for children, after saying you wanted to wait 2 years. Then suddenly, oops, birth control failed. My hands were shaking so hard I had to clasp them together. You don't know anything about our private conversations. I know my son. I know he wanted to wait, build his career, travel. Then you changed his mind, somehow. Marcus cleared his throat. I'm sorry this is so painful, but Julia, you need to face reality. The baby is mine. I'm willing to work out custody arrangements, visitation, child support. I'm not trying to hurt you. Get out of my house. My voice was barely above a whisper. Your house? Catherine stood. She was wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my parents' monthly rent had been. Let me make this very clear. End this now. Divorce her immediately, Daniel. This is disgusting. You brought shame to our family by marrying beneath your station. Don't compound it by raising another man's child. The room erupted. Margaret gasped. Thomas tried to shush her. Sarah's phone was definitely recording now. 2 of Daniel's cousins started arguing in whispers. I looked at my husband, really looked at him. His face was twisted with confusion and pain, and something that looked like doubt. Daniel, I said quietly, do you believe I cheated on you? He stared at those photos for what felt like an hour, then at Marcus Webb, then at his mother's expectant, triumphant face. Then he did something I'll never forget. He punched Marcus Webb in the face. The crack of knuckles on bone was loud in the silent room. Marcus stumbled back, hit the coffee table, sent champagne glasses flying. Blood poured from his nose. "You're lying," Daniel said. His voice was calm, deadly calm. "I don't know who paid you or how you made those documents, but you're lying. And you just made a very expensive mistake." He turned to his parents. "I believe her. I've always believed her. And if you can't accept that, if you can't accept my wife and my child, then you can keep your fortune, your properties, your businesses, all of it." Catherine's face went white. "Daniel, don't be ridiculous." "I'm not being ridiculous. I'm being clear. Julia is my wife. This is my baby, and I will choose her over every single dollar in the Hayes family trust." He took my hand. "We're leaving." "You walk out that door," Robert said, "and you're disowned, effective immediately." Daniel squeezed my hand. "Then I'm disowned." We walked out together. I heard Catherine screaming behind us, heard glass breaking, heard someone, Margaret, I think, crying. Daniel drove us to a hotel. A modest one, not the places he was used to. We sat on the bed in room 314, and I finally let myself cry. "How did they do it?" I asked. "The photos looked so real." "Deepfake technology, AI image manipulation. If you have enough money and no conscience, you can make anything look real." He wiped my tears with his thumbs. "My mother's been planning this. I know her. She never accepted you. Never accepted that I could love someone who didn't come from wealth." "Your father said you're disowned. He meant it. The trust has a morality clause. Brings shame to the family? You're out. They'll probably claim I violated it by defending a cheating wife." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Ironic, since the real shame is them paying a stranger to destroy our marriage. We have nothing now." The reality was hitting me. No house, no income. Your job was at your father's company. "We have each other. We have our baby." He put his hand on my stomach. "That's not nothing." But it felt like nothing when the hotel bill came and Daniel's credit card was declined. When we realized his parents had already frozen his accounts. When we spent the next morning in a legal aid office, learning that we had no claim to Hayes' property because Daniel had never been officially added to the trust, just promised future inheritance. Let me take you back 3 years to the day I met Daniel Hayes. I was 25, working double shifts at a diner called Rosie's on Fletcher Avenue. My parents had died in a car accident when I was 23. No life insurance, just debt. I'd sold their house to pay it off and moved into a studio apartment above a dry cleaner. Daniel came in every Tuesday for coffee and pie. He wore expensive suits, but he was always polite, always tipped well, always said please and thank you. On the 7th Tuesday, he asked my name. On the 10th Tuesday, he asked me to dinner. I said no. I knew who he was. Hayes Development Corporation, buildings all over the city. I'd seen his mother's photo in the society pages. "Why not?" he asked. "Because you're from a different world." "Then show me yours." So I took him to the places I knew. The corner bodega where Mrs. Chen sold the best dumplings, the park where my dad used to take me to feed pigeons, the library where I'd spent every Saturday as a kid because it had air conditioning and our apartment didn't. He didn't try to impress me with wealth. He listened. He asked questions. He remembered everything I said. When he proposed 6 months later, his mother cried. Not happy tears. She pulled me aside at the engagement party and said, "You'll never be enough for him. You know that, don't you? He'll realize it eventually." I told Daniel. He said she'd come around. She never did. Now, sitting in that legal aid office with a lawyer named Susan Park, who was trying to explain our options, I realized Catherine had been planning this from the beginning, waiting for the right moment to destroy me. Pregnancy was perfect. A baby meant inheritance, meant permanence, meant I'd be tied to the Hayes family forever. Unless she could prove the baby wasn't Daniel's. "The photos are fake," I told Susan. "The documents are forged, but I don't know how to prove it." "Do you have alibis for the dates they claim you were with this Marcus Webb?" I thought back to last summer, June, July, August. I was home most of the time. Daniel was traveling. I was alone. No witnesses? Sometimes I went to the grocery store, the library, but I didn't keep receipts or anything. I didn't know I'd need an alibi for living my normal life. Susan wrote something in her notes. What about phone records? Your real phone records? I can get those. But they'll just say I had a second phone. Daniel leaned forward. What about the photos themselves? Can we prove they're manipulated? You'd need a forensic analyst. That costs money. How much? 5,000 minimum. Could be 10. We had $847 in our checking account. The hotel was $129 a night. We'd been there 3 nights. Daniel sold his watch, a Rolex his grandfather gave him, got $2,300 for it at a pawn shop. We paid the hotel bill and put the rest toward the forensic analyst. Dr. Raymond Chen worked out of a small office in Chinatown. He examined the photos for 2 hours, then called us back. They're good, he said. Professional quality. But there are artifacts, pixel inconsistencies around the face, shadow angles that don't match the lighting. This woman is real, probably a hired model, but the face has been swapped with yours using deep learning algorithms. Can you prove it in court? Daniel asked. I can write a report, but without access to the original files or the software used, it's just my professional opinion versus their evidence. We left his office with a 12-page technical report that I barely understood. It used words like convolutional neural networks and generative adversarial networks. It proved the photos were fake, but would anyone believe it? The next morning, Daniel's lawyer called. The Hayes family was suing for fraud, claiming we'd manipulated them into accepting our marriage with false pretenses, demanding Daniel return all gifts, pay back all money spent on our wedding, and vacate any property with Hayes connection within 14 days. The wedding had cost $180,000. They wanted every penny back. This is insane, Daniel said into the phone. I'm their son. Not anymore. His lawyer sounded tired. Your father filed the disownment papers yesterday. It's official. You're not in the will, not in the trust, not recognized as family. We were sitting in a Starbucks because we couldn't afford the hotel anymore. We'd moved into a weekly rental motel on the east side. Room 7B. The sheets were rough and the walls were thin, and I could hear the couple next door fighting every night. I was working at a call center. Customer service for a furniture company. $8 an hour. Daniel was applying everywhere, but no one wanted to hire someone blacklisted by the Hayes family. His father had made calls, made it clear that employing Daniel Hayes meant no business with Hayes Development Corporation. In a city where Hayes Development owned or managed 40% of commercial real estate, that threat meant something. I was 4 months pregnant when Marcus Webb filed for paternity rights. The court order came on a Tuesday. He was demanding a prenatal DNA test, demanding visitation, demanding to be listed as father on the birth certificate. He can't do this, I told our lawyer. A public defender named James Morrison, who was handling our case pro bono because Susan had called in a favor. He can request it. The judge will decide. But the photos are fake. We have Dr. Chen's report. And they have medical records showing you and Marcus Webb were treated at the same clinic. Patient records with both your names, time-stamped, official. I felt sick. I've never been to that clinic. I don't even know where it is. Mercy General Hospital, Women's Health Wing. According to these records, you were there July 18th at 2:30 p.m. for a consultation. Daniel pulled up Google Maps. That's across town, 45-minute drive from our house. Why would Julia go there when her doctor is 10 minutes away? James studied the records. Says here it was a specialty consultation, fertility treatment. I wasn't trying to get fertility treatment. I wasn't trying to get pregnant at all. The words came out sharper than I meant. James looked up. Not that I don't want the baby, I added quickly, but we weren't actively trying. It just happened. Did it? James's voice was gentle. Because these records suggest you were taking fertility medications, hormone treatments. That's how they're spinning it. You were desperate to get pregnant to trap Daniel. When it didn't work with him, you had an affair with Marcus Webb, got pregnant with his help, then passed it off as Daniel's to secure your place in the Hayes family. The story was so elaborate, so detailed, that I almost admired it. Almost. None of that is true. I believe you. But I need proof. Hard evidence. Timeline proof that you couldn't have been at that clinic on July 18th. I closed my eyes, thinking back. July 18th. 4 months ago. What was I doing? Where was I? Daniel was in Singapore, I said slowly. I was home. Catherine had me cleaning out her storage unit. She wanted everything cataloged for insurance purposes. Can you prove that? I took photos, sent them to Daniel throughout the day so he'd know I was actually working. I grabbed my phone, scrolling back. Here! July 18th, look. The photos showed me in Catherine's climate-controlled storage facility, boxes labeled with dates and contents. Catherine standing next to me in some of the shots, pointing at items. Time stamps on every photo. 11:42 a.m., me holding a box of antique china. 1:15 p.m., Catherine and me with an inventory list. 2:47 p.m., stack of cataloged boxes. 4:20 p.m., final photo of the completed organization. I was with Catherine from 10 a.m. until almost 5 p.m. that day. She supervised everything, made me redo the labeling twice because my handwriting wasn't neat enough. James smiled. And the clinic appointment was allegedly at 2:30 p.m.? Exactly. Do you still have the original messages you sent Daniel? Daniel was already pulling up his phone. Every single one. I never delete her messages. We printed everything, photos with metadata showing exact time and GPS location. Text messages, Catherine's own calendar entry scheduling me for storage organization that day. Even the storage facility's security footage request form. James filed it immediately. 2 weeks later, we had the footage. Grainy but clear. Me arriving at 9:58 a.m., Catherine arriving at 10:03 a.m., both of us leaving at 4:52 p.m. No gaps, no unexplained absences. The clinic was 47 minutes away. Even if I'd driven like a maniac, there was no physical way I could have been in both places. Marcus Webb withdrew his paternity claim 3 days later. His lawyer sent a brief letter. Upon further review of the evidence, my client has determined he was mistaken in his identification. Mistaken. As if he'd confused me with someone else at the grocery store, not orchestrated an entire fake affair with forged documents and deep-fake photos. The court case against us for fraud quietly disappeared. No explanation, no apology, just a notice that the Hayes family was dropping all charges. Catherine never called, never acknowledged what she'd done, never admitted she'd hired Marcus Webb and paid for the forgeries. But I knew. Daniel knew. And we had nothing. His family had destroyed his career and reputation. We were living in a motel room with our savings draining by $680 a week. I was pregnant and working 8-hour shifts answering phones for people angry about damaged furniture. The baby was due in 5 months. We didn't have a crib, didn't have a car seat, didn't have health insurance because Daniel's coverage had been through his family's company, and mine had been through my parents' old policy which expired when I turned 26. I was lying in bed at 2:47 a.m. Unable to sleep because the baby was kicking and my back hurt and the people next door were screaming again when Daniel sat up. "What if I talk to them?" he said. "Who?" "My parents. Apologize. Tell them we'll do the DNA test after the baby's born, prove once and for all that it's mine. Maybe then they'll—" "No." I sat up too. "You're not begging them for anything." "Julia, we can't keep living like this." "We'll figure it out." "How? I can't get hired. You're making minimum wage." "The baby comes in 5 months and we have $2,000 in savings. Hospital bills alone will be $15,000 without insurance." I wanted to argue, but he was right. We were drowning. "Let me try," he said. "One conversation. If they refuse, fine. We'll never speak to them again, but let me try." I didn't sleep the rest of that night. Daniel met his mother for lunch on a Thursday. She chose the restaurant. Bellamy's on Fifth Avenue. White tablecloths and a wine list longer than my grocery receipts. He came back to the motel 3 hours later. His face was gray. She said no. I'd expected it. Still hurt. She said the family has no interest in reconciliation unless I leave you. Divorce. Full custody of the baby to me. She'll arrange a marriage to someone appropriate. Restore my position in the company. Pretend none of this happened. What did you say? I told her to go to hell. He pulled me close. I chose you a year ago. I choose you now. I'll choose you every single day for the rest of my life, even if it means choosing poverty. I cried into his shoulder, not sad tears, grateful tears. Because Catherine Hayes had all the money in the world, but she'd never understand what we had. But gratitude doesn't pay rent. I was 7 months pregnant when we got evicted from the motel. Manager said we were 2 weeks behind. We'd paid every week on time, but apparently there was a price increase we hadn't been told about. The new rate was $790 a week. We couldn't afford it. Daniel's friend from college, one of the few who hadn't ghosted him after the disownment, let us sleep on his couch for a month. Then his landlord found out and threatened eviction for unauthorized occupants. We ended up in a women's shelter. They had a family room program. One room, shared bathroom down the hall. Dinner in the community kitchen at 6 p.m. sharp. Daniel couldn't stay full-time because the shelter prioritized beds for women and children. He slept in his car some nights. His 2015 Honda Civic that was worth maybe $4,000 and was our only asset. I was 8 months pregnant, working at the call center, until my manager said I was making customers uncomfortable with my heavy breathing on calls. She didn't fire me, just reduced my hours to 12 a week. Not enough to live on, not little enough to qualify for unemployment. The baby was due in 6 weeks. I had 3 newborn outfits donated by the shelter, 1 package of diapers, no crib because we had nowhere to put it. Daniel was applying to jobs in other cities, other states, places where Hayes Development had no influence. But every application asked for references. Every interview asked about the gap in his employment. Every background check revealed the lawsuit. We were toxic, unemployable, invisible. I was folding the donated baby clothes for the 4th time, just to have something to do with my hands, when Daniel came into the shelter room with an expression I'd never seen before. What happened? I got a job. Where? Night shift, warehouse, loading trucks, starts Monday, $16 an hour. It was half what he used to make, but it was something. That's good, I said, that's really good. It's not enough. He sat on the bed. Even with your 12 hours and my 40, we can't afford a security deposit on an apartment. Can't afford childcare for when you go back to work. Can't afford. We'll figure it out. I took his hand. We always do. But I was lying. I had no idea how we'd figure it out. The baby came 3 weeks early. I went into labor at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. Daniel drove me to County General Hospital because it was the only place that would take us without insurance. The emergency room was packed. We waited for 47 minutes before a nurse took my vitals. 12 hours later, our daughter was born. 6 pounds, 2 ounces. Perfect. Healthy. Beautiful. They let us stay in the hospital for 24 hours, standard for uncomplicated births. Then a social worker came to discuss our discharge plan. Where will you be going? She asked. Back to the shelter, I said. She wrote something in her file. And the father is? Right here. Daniel was holding our daughter. He hadn't put her down since they'd placed her in his arms. I see. And your living situation is stable? We're working on it. More writing. I'm going to need to refer you to Child Services, standard procedure for families in transitional housing. You think we can't take care of our baby? My voice was sharp. I think you're doing your best in a difficult situation. But the state has an obligation to ensure infant safety. Someone will call you within a week to schedule a home visit. Home visit to a shelter room with peeling paint and a bathroom we shared with 11 other families. Daniel named her Emma. Emma Julia Hayes. No middle name from his family. No tradition, just ours. We brought her back to the shelter wrapped in a hospital blanket because we didn't have a proper one. The other mothers cooed over her, offered advice, donated a bassinet that one of them didn't need anymore, Emma slept 3 hours at a time. I fed her every two. Daniel worked 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. MC came back to the shelter, showered, slept for 4 hours, then watched Emma while I went to my 12-hour call center shift. We were surviving, barely. The child services worker came on a Thursday. Her name was Patricia Moreno. She was kind but thorough, inspected the room, asked about our income, our plans. "How long do you intend to stay here?" she asked. "Until we save enough for an apartment," Daniel said. "And when do you expect that to be?" 3 months, maybe 4, Patricia wrote in her file. "I'm not seeing any concerns right now. Emma is healthy, well-fed, clean. You're both clearly devoted parents, but I'll need to do a follow-up visit in 30 days. After she left, I cried. Not because she'd found problems, because she hadn't, because we were doing everything right and it still wasn't enough. Emma was 6 weeks old when everything changed. Daniel came back from his warehouse shift at 7:30 a.m. on a Wednesday. He was holding a letter. "This was at the hospital," he said, "from my grandfather's lawyer." I took it. The return address was Foster and Associates, law offices on Chambers Street. "Your grandfather died 2 years ago." "I know. This is dated 3 days after Emma was born." I opened it. "Dear Mr. Hayes, I am writing on behalf of the late Harold Hayes, your paternal grandfather. As executor of his estate, I have been instructed to contact you upon the birth of your first child. Your grandfather established a trust in 2019, 1 year before his death. The terms are specific. The trust activates only when you become a father. He did not inform your parents of this arrangement, as he suspected they would attempt to contest it. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience to discuss the terms and conditions of Harold Hayes's final wishes. Sincerely, Mitchell Foster, Esquire." "Is this real?" I asked. "I don't know." We called the number. Mitchell Foster answered on the second ring. "Mr. Hayes, I've been expecting your call." We met him at his office that afternoon. Emma slept in my arms the entire meeting. Mitchell Foster was 70-something, with wire-rimmed glasses and a gentle smile. "Your grandfather was a wise man," he said. "He saw how your parents treated people, how they valued wealth over character. He didn't approve." "Then why didn't he change his will?" Daniel asked. "He did. This trust is separate from the main estate. Your parents don't know it exists. By the time they find out, if they ever do, it will be too late to challenge." He handed Daniel a folder. "Your grandfather left you $500,000, invested conservatively, currently worth approximately $680,000 with interest. There's also a property, a house on Maple Street, 3 bedrooms, paid off, under your name as of today." I couldn't breathe. "There's one condition," Mitchell continued. "You must use the money to build a life independent of your parents. No contact with Hayes Development Corporation. No business dealings with the Hayes Family Trust. He wanted you free of them." Daniel stared at the papers. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? We've been homeless, living in a shelter. I worked in a warehouse." "Because your grandfather's instructions were clear. Contact upon the birth of your first child, not before. He believed adversity would prove your character, show you who truly loved you." Mitchell looked at me. He was right. 3 months later, we moved into the house on Maple Street. Emma had her own nursery, yellow walls with white curtains, a rocking chair in the corner where I fed her at 3 a.m. Daniel enrolled in a business management program. Started his own consulting firm working with small companies that Hayes Development would never notice. Built it slowly, carefully. I stayed home with Emma for the first year, then started taking online classes. Finally finished the college degree my parents never got to see me earn. We never contacted Catherine and Robert, never reached out, never explained. 1 year after Emma was born, we had our second wedding anniversary. Just the 3 of us. Emma was walking by then, 11 months old and determined to explore everything. The doorbell rang at 7 p.m. Daniel answered it. I heard his sharp intake of breath. "Hello, son." Catherine Hayes stood on our porch, Robert beside her, both dressed like they were attending a funeral. "What do you want?" Daniel's voice was ice. "To meet our granddaughter." Catherine's eyes found Emma toddling behind Daniel's legs. "To apologize. You're 2 years too late." "I know." Her voice cracked. Actually cracked. "I know what I did. The man I hired, the photos, the lawsuit. I destroyed your life because I was terrified of losing you to someone I thought was beneath us." "She was never beneath us. You were beneath her." Robert stepped forward. "We're not asking for forgiveness. We're asking for a chance, 1 hour, to meet Emma, to try to explain." I appeared in the doorway, Emma in my arms. "No." Catherine's face crumpled. "Please, Julia, I was wrong. So terribly wrong. I let my pride destroy my family. Don't make the same mistake." "I'm not making a mistake. I'm protecting my daughter from people who think love is conditional on wealth." "We'll change." "You won't. Because you don't think you need to." I shifted Emma higher. "You taught me something valuable, though. You showed me exactly what kind of people I don't want in my daughter's life. So thank you for that." Daniel closed the door. We heard Catherine crying on the other side, heard Robert's low voice trying to comfort her, heard their car start 10 minutes later. They never came back. Emma is 3 now. She has Daniel's eyes and my stubbornness. She doesn't know she has grandparents who chose money over her. Maybe someday we'll tell her. Maybe we won't. Daniel's consulting firm has 15 employees. Small but successful. Will never be Hayes-level wealthy. Don't want to be. I finished my degree last spring, business administration. Started helping Daniel with the firm. Turns out I'm good at managing people, at building teams, at creating the kind of workplace where everyone is valued. We had our second daughter 6 months ago, Lily. She sleeps through the night already. The house on Maple Street is ours, truly ours. The mortgage doesn't exist because Harold Hayes paid cash. The deed has both our names. Sometimes I drive past the Hayes Development building downtown, see the logo on the side. Wonder if Catherine looks out her office window and thinks about us. Probably not. But I think about her, about the stranger she hired to destroy my marriage, about the photos and the medical records and the elaborate lie. I think about standing in that living room on our first anniversary, pregnant and terrified, watching my husband choose me over everything he'd ever known. That's the thing about love. Real love. It doesn't calculate, doesn't measure worth in bank accounts or family names or social status. Real love drives 200 miles in a snowstorm, sells its Rolex to pay for a forensic analyst, sleeps in a car so you can have the shelter bed, holds your hand through 12 hours of labor in a county hospital. Real love chooses you. If you're watching this and you've ever had to walk away from people who loved their pride more than they loved you, type "I chose myself" in the comments. Or if you found someone who chose you over everything else they had, type "Love chose me." Both are victories. Both are brave. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here.